16 years ago, we'd get together and play basketball on Wednesday nights at the local high school. One of those Wednesday nights, I had a cardiac arrest, and at that time, the AED said I was dead. Ambulances got there, and I was taken to Valley City, the emergency room at the hospital, and then life flighted to Fargo, and eventually put in 3 stents into my heart, and here I am. Having survived that, you kind of feel alone. When you go to cardiac rehab, there's all kinds of people that have survived heart attacks, and you start your rebuilding period. Those are the things that are, I think about, because it didn't affect me, but I think about those people that didn't make that high curve. So.
Living in rural Dakota is just such a pleasure. You could go hiking, biking, the open space. It's just so beautiful.
We dress warm. I would say 10 below zero is pretty common. It's not hard to live here. It's just, you got to accept that it's going to get cold.
People don't complain, and they tough it up, they do their job. We're rural, and because of that, we care about each other.
They're very comfortable with what they have and what they don't have. Really salt of the earth.
Lesser populations that the services have gone downhill a little bit. We don't have the road service we used to have to keep the rural roads open. We just don't get the attention.
Sometimes they might live 2 hours or more from a big tertiary facility that can perform some of the cath lab and different. There's only 4 bigger hospitals in the state that do kind of some of those bigger procedures. So having a small town hospital and small ambulances in the state is super important.
We have many people my age or older in our community, and we talk about that all the time. How do we keep the roads open so the ambulance can get there, or how long does it take? And we're thinking, yeah, maybe we should be in Valley City so we're closer to a hospital.
Some counties don't even have a hospital, so they have to rely on their EMS services, and a lot of EMS services in North Dakota are volunteer.
I've seen it personally, being a first responder and as a paramedic. When you dial 911 in rural America, it's totally different than in urban America. 90% of the systems are volunteer systems. So that means people who are working on the ambulance are working other jobs. People would show up, if it's late at night, just with their overcoat and almost in their pajamas, or showing up out of the field with their boots on from working cattle and everything else to help their neighbors who are having an emergency, or help anybody driving that might have had a car crash.
If a patient is in cardiac arrest, you only have about 5 to 10 minutes to do compressions and do a shocking and try and bring a patient back that goes into cardiac arrest. In rural Dakota, if it's taking us 20 minutes to get to that patient, that time is already gone, and then they can't survive.
They really help us reach those rural areas. The first step in our system of care is public recognition. We really work with public awareness and being able to educate the public on recognizing cardiovascular or neurovascular symptoms, activating the emergency response system, so calling 911. The next step in that system is dispatch, and they give pre-arrival instructions to the bystander, so the bystander becomes the first responder. The next step is EMS. EMS transports the patient to our critical access hospitals, and through our stroke and cardiac systems of care, designate critical access hospitals. So those tertiary care centers are our hub, and the critical access hospitals are our spokes. and that's how they're directed to our comprehensive primary plus stroke centers.
Sam was 11 years, 11 months, and 11 days old when he died. He wore a size 11 shoe. He was a big Carson Wentz fan, and he was number 11 back then. And he was the 11th grandchild on my husband's side. Those are just some of the 11s that we see more now than, of course, we would have before. So. He was with friends at a campground. There was no AED, and so it took a little while for the first responders to get there to take over CPR, and then for the ambulance to get there. Our friend that was with Sam was in the military in the past and knew CPR, and he started CPR right away, and that's what gave us time to say our goodbyes and to have that not be his last legacy, but it was with us. So.
CPR is what keeps you alive. It circulates the oxygen in the blood that you have. But an AED is proven as a treatment. So getting that shock to your heart so it can restart to a normal heart rhythm is also very important. Part of our initiative has been to get AEDs out in our community. So every police car, every fire truck, many of the public buildings and churches, where people are gathered, has an AED, and knowing how to interact with each other and take the best care we can of heart patients.
We're teaching people how to recognize if they're having a heart attack, what kind of symptoms they need extra help. We teach them how to use AEDs. We teach them how to do hands-only CPR so they can recognize and start taking care of that patient until the ambulance gets there.
We have one in the church, we have one in the fire department, but there's lots of gathering spots that don't have those things. And just go to all the classes we can on resuscitation.
The American Heart Association has been definitely a huge role in North Dakota with the Mission Lifeline. They've been big proponents of getting grants to increase this awareness throughout the state.
When it comes to cardiac care, we've done a ton. We've addressed the need with Lucas devices, automatic CPR machines in the back of every ambulance in service in South Dakota, whether it's federal, tribal, municipal, you name it, it has it.
The American Heart Association is an integral partner in our stroke and cardiac systems of care. Not only do they help with providing our registry, they also help with best practice guidelines.
You really don't have any assurance in tomorrow or even later today. You know, things change so quickly. This community really stepped up for us and made us feel loved.
You're kind of there on those person's worst day of their life when they need a helicopter or when they need the ambulances. You know, they're concerned. There's times that it's really, really hard because of the stress that you go through, and sometimes not all of our patients live. I don't know how many times in my career I've heard of people that said, oh, I haven't been feeling good, but I got an appointment next week. I'm just going to wait until then. And sometimes that next week just didn't happen.